Do you yearn for travel that involves outdoor adventure and learning? I do. I also have a passion for all things farming and agriculture. I've traveled to exotic jungles to learn about growing chocolate. I even once owned my own organic vegetable and sunflower farm. And now I'm planning my journey back to agriculture. Agritourism, defined as travel that involves some type of agricultural experience. Agritourism is all about entertaining, but the marketing strategist in me knows that at its core, agritourism is really about educating, and education affects change. My future farm needs to deliver a profound experience to all of its visitors. It needs to educate people about food, health, and climate. Join me to learn from experienced agritourism farmers and entrepreneurs and help me build my future farm strategy. And who knows, maybe one day soon you'll find yourself in a tropical jungle cutting open cacao pods with a machete, or savoring an outdoor plant-to-plate community dinner with 100 guests at a farm in Illinois. So let's tap into the agritourist in you. She is a young, inspiring agri-entrepreneur and the CEO and founder of Change Food for Good. Her name is Samia, also known as Sam Lemfadli. Sam is a Brooklyn native and technologist with a deep-rooted passion for sustainable agriculture. She founded Change Food for Good, a New York City-based nonprofit dedicated to making sustainable agricultural technology more accessible in communities affected by food insecurity. Let's pause on that for a moment. A nonprofit dedicated to making sustainable agricultural technology more accessible to areas impacted by food insecurity. Sam recognized that technology is a key ingredient in feeding people, and she was driven to put those tools into the hands of individuals who wanted to learn, create, and innovate. Through her work, Change Food for Good motivates, inspires, and trains people to understand technology, build it, and invent new agricultural solutions, especially for urban environments. Sam saw an important need and stepped forward to fill it. To date, she has placed over 200 program graduates into jobs. She continues to bridge technology and agriculture through several innovative community-based programs. When I speak with people like Sam, I'm truly humbled by the depth and breadth of their vision, their foresight, their drive, and their willingness to take a leap of faith in pursuit of what they believe in. It reminds me of other change makers I've had the privilege to interview, like Gianni, Executive Director of Carolina Human Reinvestment, or Emily Stone, founder of Uncommon Cacao, who disrupted the entire global cacao economy. I think you'll feel humbled and inspired as well. I'm Jen Ross, your AgriTourist podcast host. Enjoy my conversation with Sam from Change Food for Good. And if you enjoy this episode, please subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. Enjoy.
How are you?
I'm very good. I'm excited to speak to you. Tell me about you first. I want to know a little bit about your history, and then we'll kind of talk about the need that you saw, the gaps you saw, and how this organization was formed.
For sure. So my name's Samia Lemfadli. Everyone calls me Sam. I'm the CEO and founder of Change Food for Good. We're a nonprofit based in New York City that does workforce training and educational programming focused on sustainable agriculture, technology, and construction skills, as well as the different areas that they intersect. And we specifically use those skills to try to build up food system security systems like hydroponics, food relief systems throughout New York City. And we also subsidize employment to that end. And I got into this work because I was born and raised in Brooklyn, grew up dealing with different issues with poverty, food insecurity myself. And I was very from a young age, taught to try to look for different ways to either find self-sufficiency systems or methods to embed more agency and ownership into the work that you're trying to do. And so that led me ultimately to finding hydroponics, of course, because the idea of like growing your own food was just such a beautiful concept to me. And especially if you could do it in a place like New York, where you don't really have land access, you have small spaces to have to work with. Can you use those type of systems to sustainably feed yourself or your community is the question. And so that just led me on this very long journey to becoming, the founder of Change Food for Good with this nonprofit that we've evolved into.
So let me back up a little bit. So who taught you? You said you were taught. Like, who was the influence or influences that really inspired this interest in agriculture and urban agriculture and all the components of this? Like, who was that or what was that?
For sure. That definitely came from my mom. She immigrated here from Morocco and, was very big on those concepts of, self-sufficiency and agency. Even in dealing with some of the hardships that we had, it was like sort of stigmatized in that background that we had of accepting assistance, it's accepting food relief. So that's where like, she kind of was like I'm going to grind my way through the hard times, which is totally understandable. I do think that if you're in a situation where you really do need assistance and maybe there's some hurdles to overcome in this resources that are available commonly, that's where we're trying to provide an alternative resource to folks that are in those situations. So if you're looking for a job training or methods to learn how to grow your own food, or are hoping to maybe access food relief that is more accessible than traditional systems, those are sort of the areas that we end up gearing towards. So yeah, it definitely was ingrained in me from a young age.
Okay, yeah, no, it usually is, or yeah, there's usually someone influencing something like this behind the scenes. So, okay, because what you're doing is big. Like this is no small project. Like you've taken on something pretty significant in a huge city. So this is not. I just want to. So, what made you say, okay, I'm going to form this nonprofit. I'm going to take this on. Like what? Just bring me a little bit into that story before it was actually formed. Like, and what gave you the I don't know, like the confidence and the push or to do something like this? Because this is not like I was reading. There's so many dimensions, and we'll get into the areas of what you're trying to tackle here. This is this is not easy. There are books written about this. There are people who've worked on this for their lifetimes, and so I commend everything you're doing. But I just want to know a little bit about how this kind of started.
For sure. And I do appreciate you saying like how significant, because I feel like it's significant work too, but at the same time I understand like we're small organizations. So sometimes it feels like it's like we're just such a drop in the bucket, and I still feel like that to this day. So, but thank you. But yeah, I was in the situation of where I didn't really have access to a ton of resources when I was younger. So I had to sort of push and find different resources for myself. So that meant, working as soon as I graduated early from John Dewey High School. I graduated at 16 and immediately started working. But I knew I was going to be an entrepreneur or develop this nonprofit idea someday. I just didn't know it would be at the age that I did that it started. So yeah, ultimately, I ended up in food service, customer service roles, retail jobs for years, especially because
Great experience, though.
it
That's
definitely
great
was, for sure.
experience.
Right. But I did end up dropping out of college, and choosing to just work full time and try to achieve that sort of financial independence as best I could. And ultimately, I ended up in a workforce development program myself, through Perscolis and then General Assembly. And that taught me how to code. I was fully digitally illiterate at the time. Like I did not know anything about coding or programming or computers or anything. So I definitely felt like super intimidated going into it, but I wanted more for myself. And thankfully got that free training for like 6 months. It was super intensive. And in the process, I realized like, well, one, coding and technology isn't necessarily as daunting or as, scary as I thought it was. But two, that if I were to take these same technology tools and have folks that are on the front lines of these issues, whether they're building food systems or impacted negatively by food systems, being the ones equipped with the skills to either build better technology systems, own farm systems that are adopting technology integrations. These are different ways that we can tackle this issue of food insecurity, and particularly make food systems that are more resilient and sustainable for the future. So I'm very big on like nature, and like I love like taking care of the environment if I can in small and big ways. And so that's where I realized that like ag tech, or this intersection between agriculture and technology, would, in my opinion, be pretty crucial for having a resilient climate resilient food system for the future. So That sort of set me on this long path. It's a long story, I'll be honest with you, but that
No, it's okay. And I love the way you summarized it. That's why I was just trying to dissect a little bit more because I think, you know, you're a young entrepreneur, and I think, you will inspire other people. And I love hearing these stories, and I want you to get your story out there. So when you first, okay, so you kind of had this idea in your head, and who did you first present it to? How did you manifest it into an actual nonprofit? Like, because we have these great concepts, but to actually get it formed, to get some funding, to be able to, do this and live, what happened there?
Oh Lord. Okay. So funny enough, like the actual origin story I haven't talked too much about, which was that I was living in Florida. I always tried to try to take baby steps wherever I could to like build out this idea. So I would try to pop by community gardens. I would talk to entrepreneurs. I would talk to folks in nonprofits. I would just look out for little things about climate or agriculture. Anyway, so I was volunteering at community gardens in Florida where I was living, and eventually ended up like going to this local councilwoman, I believe, and was like, hey, I had this like it was so like when I look back at the PowerPoint, I'm like, bless my heart, oh Lord. It was so embarrassingly like
But
not put
I think
together.
that's great, though. We have to put ourselves out there. And sometimes, yes, looking back is scary sometimes, but
Right. It was like comically unprepared for this meeting, but but I had all this passion and these ideas, and like she was so like gracious about my approach. I was like, here's all the ideas. We want to do all these cool things with this, community garden that's going to do hydroponics and free food and all this stuff. All we need is the land and the money and you. Like, you know what I mean? She's like, okay, that's pretty much everything. Like, it was so funny. But she was so sweet enough to say, like, here's this, school that you can work with. Like, you could do like a
wow.
like garden to start off. So she was really nice.
Where in Florida was this?
This was in Tampa.
Okay.
And she was so nice. But I didn't end up following through on it because again, like I myself wasn't ready. And like I had this big vision and I was very all or nothing at the time with my
Yep.
ideas. So I didn't end up following through on it. Like I didn't like this shrink down kind of version of it. And I didn't understand that you have to start small to get somewhere. So yes, I put it on the shelf for a little while. And then I interned for someone that I knew that had run a nonprofit called Warriors for Autism at the time. I think they changed over to Sensory Acres. And she was amazing. This woman named Dina, who, started this nonprofit as a way to help support folks with autism. And she was just a powerhouse. Like she was amazingly strong and dedicated and knowledgeable and just taught me so much about what you need to do to get started with the nonprofit and like pitfalls to avoid.
Yep.
And so I was like, okay, in the back of my mind, I'm like, someday I'm going to do this. I know a little bit about how to get started. I'll figure it out from there. And then long story short, once I got out of the workforce boot camp I was in years and years later, I got hired by Perscolas to do career development and job placement services with them. And I ended up breaking their record for job placements nationally within a few months. And that was mainly because I would like take on the students that maybe were the hardest to reach. And like I understood where they were coming from oftentimes and like was able to reach them and just get those numbers up. So that sort of built up a bit of like trust within the sector that like I would be like a dedicated workforce professional. Ended up going to work for the Knowledge House shortly after that. Whole time I'm like in the background, like also doing like, web development or project management, like clients
Yep.
at the same time, like just hustling as much as I could. And I told them when I got hired, like, I want to start a nonprofit one day, like, teach me everything you know, like, can you mentor me? Like, give me all the tasks you don't want to do. And like, I will get it done so I can learn. And so they took me under their wing, Geraldine and Joe from the Knowledge House, and they were awesome. And I started it while I was working at the Knowledge House, and they were
Great.
super supportive, thankfully. Yeah, that's where it all began.
So let's talk a little bit. Okay. So you have like a few components. So you have you have free job training programs. I'm going to break it down. So you have four components on the website. So let's break it down and let's talk about each one.
Yeah,
So free job training programs. Talk to me a little bit about that. I
for sure.
think this is
Uh,
great.
Thank you. So our job training program is called Intro to Ag Tech. We've run about 8 cohorts, maybe 8.5 at this point, of job training that is free for 18 to 24-year-olds who are out of school, out of work, or earning less than 45,000 a year, who are New York City residents and who have an interest in pursuing sustainable ag, tech, or construction. And that training program consists of having them learn about how to design, build, and maintain soilless or hydroponic farm systems,
Wow.
how to use them for food security purposes or for resilience purposes or for cooperative ownership, just different ways that we can adapt and improve our food system locally. They also learn coding and programming, so HTML, CSS, JavaScript, very basic stuff, but they use it to be able to build out a plant API tool as like a starting project that ties into that sustainability, food resiliency piece. And then they also get their OSHA certification as well as a little bit of carpentry and construction skills during our coursework. This is over the course of about 150 hours and 8 to 10 weeks, depending on the cohort. And in the process, they build out a farm system for a community garden or school or CBO that we partner with. And then that farm system stays there for food relief purposes. All the food is distributed for free. After they complete the program, they are placed in paid internships through us that we work with employers to match them to locations that either need technology, agriculture, or construction support. And that way they can get, these employers can get stronger infrastructure and stronger labor support while our students can get more experience under their belts.
And that's through the employer partner network that you have?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So how are the 18 to 24-year-olds finding out about you? How do they enter? Like, how do you know this exists?
I mean, it ranges. Sometimes we have like partnerships. Like when we were starting out, we had different partners that either would refer folks or we partnered with Strive before. Most recently, we partnered with New York Institute of Technology to be able to source our
Oh,
students,
great.
or at least the good majority of the students. But by and large, I think it's probably through social media, word of mouth. A lot of word of mouth, is our referral network, and how folks find us. So, shout out to everybody that's spreading the word.
Absolutely. That's how it starts.
Yeah.
And then how do you feel like when these students are graduating and you're referring them into these internship opportunities, what's been the success rate of them going beyond that, into jobs in this field?
Yeah. So our students typically they end up retaining employment beyond their internships. Like 80% are retaining it for 6 months or more. They're securing jobs that are 26 an hour on average post program. Our internships are 17, so they're seeing like a big wage jump from their internships to job placement post program. But definitely it's challenging. Like we're, right now, like our capacity has been shrunk recently. So it's definitely tricky to like make sure that folks get full-time placement. Our goal within the internships is that they get between like 2 to 3 solid projects, typically client-facing projects that give them real-world experience, that put them in front of employers that either can hire them part-time or full-time post-program. And they can then leverage that and use that for their resumes, their portfolios. They do come out of their original training with a digital portfolio and case studies that document their skills and their journey. So they're definitely like strengthened in terms of their employability. But yeah, for sure. Post program, we've seen like within a year, folks are making 26 an hour on average.
Great. That's great. So the community farm development component, is this coming from the people in the program that are helping to develop these community farms based on the need that, okay.
Typically, yeah. So typically that's done during our programs. Our job training program is one way we do that. We do have educational programs. So we have a course called AgTech 101. And that's where a lot of our work in terms of like embedding localized food systems has been more strengthened. I would say just because the schools have stronger infrastructure oftentimes to maintain that or support that. So we've done that program for several years. But yeah, both of our job training and educational and internship programs provide either free food systems or low cost food systems to organizations that want to address food insecurity. Outside of that, we have done like free hydroponic workshops this last year and like equip people with these free small scale kits to be able to build out hydroponic systems in their homes. Outside of that, like if we have partners that call us up and are like, we have a greenhouse, help us build it. Like, we're like, yeah, we'll be there.
I was going to say,
So anywhere
that
we
sounds
can,
like a really good resource.
right? I'm like, anyone that's, there to make some food systems happen. I'm showing up if I can.
Absolutely. And then it says accessible technology solutions. So what do you mean by that?
Yeah,
Because
so I feel like technology takes like so many different forms.
yeah.
We've tried to use it in like every way you can think of, like from teaching students how to use drones for agriculture surveys and trying to build sensor tech products and apps ourselves. Having our students, like I said, build those plant API tools. Most recently, how we use technology within our food relief services. But what I would say is just like teaching a baseline of tech skills and how they can be used for food system resilience. Where we've seen the most success with applying technology tools has been for farmers, food producers, food justice organizations that oftentimes maybe don't have the technical capacity or the funding to be able to, build out stronger websites or online brand. So we actually, during our internships for the web dev students, the ones that go the technology route, offer free web development services to those organizations.
Wow.
We've had Vertical Gardens Kenya Ltd. We've had Brooklyn Supported Agriculture. We're working with a new client right now on a mushroom website. So yeah, just trying to make sure that if they are looking to build stronger food systems and maybe need some technical support, our students can respond to that need.
Are there any projects that stand out to you that just resonate with you for whatever reason? I just would love to hear about that.
For sure. Probably, I would say like this project that we worked on for like 5+ years called Plotbot. It was basically like a sensor tech product that we were going to use for hydroponic systems. It was meant to be sort of the core of the organization and like what I envisioned for like our 10-year plan kind of thing. It has not been working out so well. I'm like so heartbroken about it, honestly, but it's okay.
What is it? What is
So
that?
basically, it's a way to monitor farm systems on your phone more accessibly, more easily.
Okay.
If you look at sort of the hydroponic farm systems, like the commercial ones in particular, the tools and the methods that they use to maintain them is like so amazing, and it allows them to have these scalable farm systems. I wanted to make that accessible for the hobbyist, for the home grower, for the community farm. So we built out like a sort of prototype of it, ran into all these different challenges with it, but it allowed a lot of people to have really great jobs, especially for the first 5 years of the organization while we, worked out all these kinks. But yeah, we ran into too many challenges with trying to build a nonprofit, support workforce development, build out farm systems, and build out a tech product on the side. It just, oh, Lordy Jesus. But yeah, it definitely was like, it was like the best example I would think of like an ag tech project that I think can encompass what we can do. And I still believe in it thoroughly, but yeah,
Okay.
that was
Okay.
my
And have there been any students that have come through that just have really moved you, like with how they've embraced what you're delivering here and then took it to a different level or going on with this? Because that must make you proud when you see them evolving through this process and actually going on to careers or creating some technology,
Mhm.
you know.
For sure. No, I've worked with so many students over the years. I get so moved by a lot of them. I've had students that went on to like try to pursue like specialty breed development of like cannabis seeds. So they like took all the skills and like adopted it for this niche area of like cannabis, which I thought was so badass. Sorry. Yeah, I don't say
No,
that.
it's all good.
Okay, sorry, my fault. I said that.
I love
I
it.
just thought that was so cool. We have this one student named Mandy who's been with us from like the start, and she's just so awesome. Like, she's like the type of girl that like does all the things, like tries to learn everything, and somehow becomes awesome at all of it, like woodworking and all this cool stuff. But yeah, she's like, went on to work in the tech industry, has had like a really great career in tech. Finds herself randomly in like Iceland and like will send us a postcard being like, I'm thinking of you guys and like seeing how climate change is affecting the glaciers and it just
No.
is moving me. And I thought of you. I was like, oh my God. But yeah, she's so awesome. But that's like one story I think like I like, hats off to Mandy. She's awesome.
Excellent. And what about partners? But partners that have really helped this organization, your nonprofit, you know, get to different places or get access, or have helped with, I guess, support your programs.
Yeah, so we've had a ton of different partners. I would say like the Knowledge House has been probably like the closest partner, I would say, in terms of like from start to finish or start to now, even like just being like a source of mentorship and support and somewhere that we can go to and like bounce ideas off of and talk about the challenges in like an open setting. Because I used to work for them. I've seen all like the good, the bad, the ugly, and I can talk about the good, the bad, the ugly with
Yep.
them too. So yeah, they've definitely been like one of our strongest supporters and like seeing them grow now as well. Like I always have somebody to like aspire to be more like or to look up to and like think about like, would Geraldine do this? Don't do this. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like think twice
Yeah.
of like how to
Absolutely.
react, you know?
Any surprising companies that have supported you that, you were like, wow?
Oh Lord. I think probably the biggest surprise was sort of recent, which was Chipotle.
Oh,
I was
okay.
expecting Chipotle to come to the table, but that was super
That's
cool.
great.
They gave us a small grant through the Chipotle Cultivate Foundation, which helped us launch our most recent project, the Good Food for All free food vending machine project in the Bronx.
Talk
Um,
to me about that because that's how I found you.
oh, really?
Yes, that's how I saw the post about that. And I was like, wow, this is cool.
Oh
So
my
tell
God.
me about that project, how it started and what it's about. I'm glad you led me right there. So
I got you. Segue. No, so but yeah, the Good Food for All project is basically like a new evolution or iteration on the free food distribution work that we've been doing over the last few years. Especially during the pandemic, there was lots and lots of folks that were doing really great work in community fridge development and food relief distribution, and we were just like literally too small of an organization. We had like a
yeah,
$10,000 budget at the time, I think. So we really didn't have any resources to provide food relief at the time. We could do workforce training and subsidized employment at the time. So then when things were starting to like calm down, but still food relief was needed in like 2022, we began offering that service to our students, to our staff, to anybody that would fill out this short form that basically lets them opt in for whatever items they want in whatever quantities they want. And we would purchase it in bulk from Restaurant Depot with whatever reserves that we had at the time. And so we did that for like 2, 3 years basically. And over time, we worked with Collective Focus Hub, with PS328, with trying to stock food fridges that were nearby us, getting, contacted by food fridges in the Bronx. And like anybody that basically needed food relief services, we provided it as much as we could. We did this every like 2 months or so for like almost 3 years. And so we finally came up with this idea of like, what is a better way to provide consistent access to food relief services that would be secure, would be safe, would allow us to manage the inventory going in and out and sort of track those things, but still not have like this sort of means testing approach to it that you see oftentimes with traditional food relief. And would allow us to serve the same goods that we have, which is those eggs and fresh produce and all the
right.
stuff is challenging to access in traditional food relief services sometimes. So all of that led us to cold storage vending machines that we purchased one recently. We ended up launching that at Kips Bay Boys and Girls Club. It vends items automatically for free as soon as you come up and select the items that you want. We're able to track the inventory going in and out through an app on our phone, so we can see if there's any issues or what stocks are getting the most in demand and what's not in demand. And then we still offer a QR code where folks can scan it, put in the items that they want to request for the future, and if we can honor it, we will. So
Wow.
trying to still keep in that spirit of like how we started with, what kind of foods do you want? We'll try to make it happen. So that's our newest project in the Bronx, and it's been great to see like the positive reception from folks like yourselves.
So what do you think, how do you think that might, or how would you like to see that evolve?
Oh Lord, I feel like it can be placed anywhere. Like I can see this being like a project that can scale not even just like citywide, but nationally. I feel like the ways that you can apply this food relief model can be iterated for different situations. So, for example, I believe like what I'd like to see happen is to have this in schools, to have these in CBOs, in shelters potentially, and in places like shelters, for example, where maybe there's communal kitchens or communal fridges to be able to have to store items. You might have like hot and ready items versus cold storage items and groceries. So having like hot ready-made food could be a better avenue. Having different options for like schools so that if a parent is like walking up, picking up their kid, they can just get what they want. No muss, no fuss, no really having to overthink it. And then, the folks in that community or even the students that are interacting with it don't have to feel like a sense of stigma because it's just like getting candy from a vending machine. It's no different. So I'm hoping that that can be like a route that we can go in the future. We have been trying to talk to and reach out to folks like TFAP who have been, very responsive and very positive about the concept that this could be meeting Department of Health standards. And if it does, then maybe it can be a part of like RFPs or funding processes that wouldn't traditionally be available for community food fridges. So if that is the case, then, fingers crossed, this will be a scaled up process in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're onto something. I mean, it provides access in a whole different way, and and the technology is integrated. I hope that it goes in the direction. I hope there's no stumbling blocks, which when it
I'm
comes
sure
to
there will
food,
be.
and major ones. But you'll figure a way around it, I'm sure. But I could see you getting, if you get the right people supporting something like this.
For sure.
This could really, even government, like even just getting the right people around this, because I really do think, and you have the prototype to prove concept.
Yeah.
So I definitely, I'm excited to see how this one evolves, definitely excited. So just how does your funding break down right now? I presume you have, you mentioned grants, are you getting private funding, government fund, like how, because that's obviously one of the biggest challenges with organizations to keep that funding, to diversify it enough so that you're not dependent on one type of funding. So just give me a perspective of that.
For sure. So majority of our funding is from philanthropic organizations. Foundations that donate and, give either multi-year grants or single-year grants. We have gotten, like, our first grant was actually for subsidized employment, which is our stipends that pay for our internships for our participants. And that is like our biggest and longest standing government grant. Last year we did get a single government grant, which was, really great. We got to cover like the majority of our services this last year through that grant, which was awesome. I don't believe it's getting renewed. So that is like sort of where now we're trying to, either raise funds from contracts, which is another portion of how our funding is set up. So we do contracts for educational programming, for job training programming, in some cases for the organizations that are large enough to match our internship stipends. They've done that in the past. So it's a mix. Probably the smallest portion of our budget is made up by individual donors, but most recently we've started getting, like, especially with our new food relief project with Good Food for All, they've been, coming in a little bit more, which has been awesome to see. But yeah, so majority is, philanthropic foundations, a little bit of government, some contracts, and
it's good. It's good diversity. You need that these days because you never know. So just a two-part question to kind of sum this up. As you reflect back, we're coming to year end. As you reflect back on the, since you started, what are some thoughts that come to mind? What do you feel most proud of? What might not have turned out the way you wanted it to turn out? And then I just want to know, okay, we're coming into 2026. What are your biggest priorities? What do you want to accomplish in this coming year? And how can people help?
Yeah. I would say probably the fact that how we've designed the organization to deliver the services we've done, I believe, has been really focused on embedding agency and ownership as much as possible into the work that we do. So at every step, it's, what is the food system that you want to see in your community? What does that look like? And how does that serve either economic, environmental, social sustainability purposes, or all three? And those are the challenges that we give to our students when they're in their job training program, when they're designing their final project, to try to embed. When we approach employers, we're asking, like, what is the gap that you're having right now? And like trying to see how we can respond to those gaps and design our programming accordingly. When we do our food relief services, we're asking like, what is the food that you want to see so that we can deliver what you actually want and need and not just be like a redundancy sort of. So as much as possible, I think that's what I'd be most proud of is just like, it's not just about like providing a service. It's also about filling an actual gap and giving people a choice in how they approach receiving those services, which I think I would have loved to see when I was younger, and I want to embody that in the work that we do. For this next year, the biggest priority is one, I think stabilizing like this new projects that we have on board, like Good Food for All, and how we're approaching workforce development for the new year. So one of the goals that I have is to try to gamify and have our learning modules online. So having like a way to sort of adapt to what I believe is the future of work. And just making sure that it's not too disruptive to what we're doing currently.
Right.
So trying to really integrate that well and make sure it doesn't destabilize things anymore than we need to. And then separately is just fundraising. Right now, we're definitely seeing challenges either currently or on the horizon for fundraising. So that's like a major goal that we have to focus on for 2026.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Well, you're pretty amazing what you've accomplished and this how you're focusing on sustainable agriculture and food access in such a unique, way and making an impact with students. It's just, your organization is pretty amazing. Definitely impressive. So I really want to keep in touch with you about some of these initiatives. I want to see how they evolve, especially what you're doing in the Bronx. I think that has a lot of legs. So anything you need from me, please reach out. It was a pleasure meeting you and getting to know you and getting to know all the things that you're working on. So good luck with everything. Okay.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
You too, Sam. Bye-bye. I hope our AgriTourist podcast prompts you to think more about where your food comes from, whether it be your vegetables, fruits, meats, and even those sweet treats. Don't forget to subscribe and share this podcast with someone you think may truly benefit from or be inspired by it. Visit us at agri-tourist.com. Until next time.